Hello, a big hello from Sugar and Spice. Deepti and I
Hello.
are, yes, we are back after a long gap. I know all of us are dealing with a lot of problems. Yes, Deepti,
Yes, difficult
current
times.
situation is not good at all. Yes, so we thought we need to have a break, and we are back again, as we promised earlier, with two very good stories. Yes, Deepti.
Yeah. So our stories today are from totally different types of stories. One is towards the darker side, and one is a lighter, very popular story. So hope you enjoy this cocktail of stories today from Sugar and Spice, and we are back hopefully with a bang. And we directly move on to the stories, right, Shrija?
Yes, folks. So sit back and enjoy. The name of my story today is The Telltale Heart, and this one's by Edgar Allan Poe, an American writer, a very well known American writer who loved to speak about the dark, the shadows, and the macabre. This is one such short story, quite a well known one. So let me begin. Why do you say that I am mad? I'm not mad. I have been meant, I have been ill for a long time, but I haven't lost my mind as yet. So why do you say that I'm mad? In fact, I would say that my senses, my sense of hearing especially, has gone up now. I feel very powerful. I can feel things. I can hear things better after my illness. And yet you say that I'm mad, that I have lost control of my mind. I never hated the old man. In fact, I loved him. I didn't want his wealth. I didn't want his wealth at all. But I don't know when this idea took hold of me. I think it had to do with his eye. One of the eyes of this old man was a dark blue, evil looking eye with a very, very thin film over it. Whenever he looked at me with that eye, a terrible fear would build up within me. My blood would turn to ice. It reminded me of a vulture's eye, those predatory birds who wait for their prey to die before pouncing on them and eating them up. This eye was one such eye, and I knew that if I had to get over the fear of this particular eye, I would have to kill it. And so I planned to kill the old man. Like I said, if I am really mad, as you think I am, would I be able to plan this out so well? So the first night, around 12ish, I crept up to his door, his bedroom door, with a lantern. I kept the lantern covered so the light would not show. I waited outside his door and I listened. I didn't hear any sound from within. So I cracked the door open just a little bit and just enough to put my hand with the lantern, my hand holding the lantern in. I waited again. No sound. Then I opened the door a little more so that I could put my head and my neck in, just up to my neck. The room was pitch dark. I couldn't see a thing. The old man was asleep. But when I lifted the cloth a little bit, the cloth that covered the lantern, it cast just enough light on the old man's face, on that terrible eye, the eye that I hated. But it was closed. The old man was fast asleep. I couldn't do anything but wait. And I waited for a long time. I waited because the eye was closed. It wasn't open. And I had a problem with the eye, not the old man. So I went back that night. But I continued this vigil for 7 whole nights. And in the mornings, I would meet the old man and a very friendly, in a very genial way, I would ask him, "So, how was your night? Did you sleep well?" How was he to know that he was being watched every night? When the eighth night came along, I went as usual with the lantern, paused outside his door, and listened. Yes, I could hear him moving. There was movement today. He was restless. So I waited for a little bit and then opened the door again, put my hand with the lantern in. Immediately, the old man's Tremulous voice came out from inside. Who's there? Who's near the door? But I didn't utter a sound. I was silent. I waited. I stood there quietly in the dark and waited. The old man asked again, but when he found that he wasn't getting an answer, he kept quiet. But I could hear his heartbeats. He was very, very frightened. And I could hear him mumbling to himself, it must be the rats. I'm sure I must have heard the winds coming down through the chimney. He was trying to comfort himself, but didn't really succeed. He wasn't succeeding with it. So then I opened the door a little more and put my head in, held the lantern up. The light fell on the old man's face, and I saw him sitting up with that evil eye bright open. It was looking at me. My hatred went up so quickly, I didn't know when it took hold of me. I opened the door, screaming, I ran in, and pulling up his bed covers, I threw it on the old man's head and held him down on the bed. The old man struggled underneath me, but he couldn't do anything. I could hear his heart beating. I could hear it beating hard. Slowly, it stopped, and there was no sound. I waited for a little bit and then lifted the bed covers up. The old man was stone dead. Now, what I did after that, you tell me, if I am mad, as you say I am, would I be able to do what I did next? I took the old man, the dead old man, off the bed. I chopped off his head first, then his hands, then his feet. And mind you, I did this without spilling a drop of blood. Then I removed 3 floorboards off the floor, put the body in, and put them back to make it look like there had been no movement there. Nothing had been changed. It looked like it did before I put the body in. Now, when I finished my work, I felt very peaceful. It was around 4 in the morning, but it was still dark outside. That's when I heard someone at the door. I went to open the door, even if it was dark outside, because I was no longer scared. I was not frightened because the source of my fear was gone. The eye was dead. I walked up to the door and found, when I opened it, found 3 policemen waiting outside. A neighboring woman, one of the neighbors, had heard the old man scream and had called the police in. So they wanted to check. They asked me if everything was okay and that a scream had been heard. So I told them, no, that was me. I had a nightmare and I screamed in my sleep. It happens sometimes. And I told them that the old man wasn't here. He had gone visiting his relatives and wouldn't be back for a while. They wanted to check the place anyway, and I invited them in. In fact, I accompanied them and showed them all the places that they could possibly look, feeling quite happy within that they would never find the body. They searched the house thoroughly. And when they were done, I invited them to sit down in the very room that the old man lay. I was very confident that they wouldn't find out. And I spoke to them in a very genial and friendly manner, and they did the same. We had a few minutes of conversation. Everything went well until after a while there was a sound that kept bothering me. I couldn't speak very well because it was like this buzzing in my ear. I paid attention to it. Then I realized that it was the sound of the old man's heartbeats. I was shocked. How could his heart still be beating? I spoke a little louder, but the sound wouldn't stop. It started bothering me. I was almost screaming, trying to cover the sound because I was sure that the policeman would hear. Then I started walking around the room. I went literally raced around the room, hoping to cover up the sound of the heartbeat, which the policeman might hear. But it didn't look like they were hearing anything, but it bothered me. I dragged the chair across the floor, hoping the sound would cover up the heartbeat, but it wouldn't stop. I couldn't take it anymore, and I stopped and screamed, pointing at the floor. The floorboards were under which the old man lay. I killed him. I did it. He's right there under the floor. If you pull up those floorboards, you're going to see the old man there. Look, you can find it right away. But tell me, why doesn't his heartbeat stop? Why is his heart still beating? The story ends there. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. Hope you enjoyed it.
Wow, that was one scary
Creepy.
story. I'm sure
Yeah.
it was the guilt. It was the guilt in her mind which made her, hear that.
The guilt in the man's mind, one. And maybe
Yeah,
he does speak of an illness. So are we talking
yeah,
about a mind that isn't quite right?
yeah. Sorry, in
So
his
many,
mind, yeah, yeah. So I
yeah, so
feel,
many.
yeah. So that scene just came alive in my mind. Like how he would hysterically walk up and down and also. It was really visually
Yes,
very, yeah. We could visualize that. So as a
yeah.
storyteller and author, it is expected out of you. Uh, but awesome, Sri.
No, it's
Very
a
nice
lovely
story.
story. Yes, it's nice. So now, Deepti, I think after this macabre tale, you need to come in with that beautiful story of yours. And I'm sure many of them will recognize the story once you say it. It's one
Yes,
of my
yes.
favorites.
Many of them, in fact, would have even studied it in college
Yes.
or school. Yeah, in prose. I did actually. So I really would like to tell this story today. A much lighter note. My heart is still, dub, dub, dub. I can hear the
Beating.
heartbeat now. Yeah, really.
Yeah, we need to
So,
bring it down a little bit.
yeah. So I think with my story, hopefully everybody would calm down a bit, maybe laugh, yeah, or maybe a little,
Or
we
cry.
can say a little tragic, sad
Yes.
ending story, but it's something which is very popular. So let me move on to my story next.
Yes.
Yes. So the story which I want to say today is by a French author. His name is Guy de Maupassant. And the name of the story is The Diamond Necklace. This story speaks about a lady whose name was Matilda Loisel. She, as if by some error of destiny, she was born into this very middle class, very normal family of clerks. And she was also married to a very, normal employee, a clerk at the Board of Education, Monsieur Loisel, and she was having a very mediocre life. But why error of destiny? She always felt that she was not cut out for such a life. She was this elegant, you know very aristocratic woman, very graceful lady, and she always felt she deserved to be born in a much better, a better, she wanted to have a better house, very fine clothes to wear, and she would always dream of an aristocratic way of life. So very clearly she was unhappy with her life. So as days went by, one day Monsieur Loisel brought home an invitation, one which he was very happy to hand over to his wife, and he said, "Take a look, Matilda." So she took the envelope from him and opened it, and it read, "The Minister of Public Instruction and Madame George Rompeno asked the honor of Monsieur and Madame Loisel's company Monday evening, January 18th, at the minister's residence." This was going to be a very, very grand party where all the entire official world would be there, and it would be one opportunity for Matilda to live the life of her dreams. At least for one day, she could be among rich and aristocratic people. So the husband obviously thought that she would be happy to receive this invitation. But on the contrary, she just put the invitation down and she was looking very, very sad. In fact, she started to weep. So he was confused. He asked, "What happened?" So she somehow managed to say that, "What do you think I'm going to wear to such a party? I don't have any dress which is worthy of wearing to such a fine party. What do you think I'm going to wear? So her husband said, why? What is the problem? And he just, stammered for a minute. And he said, well, you could wear the dress that you wore to the theater last day, when what you had worn, it was very pretty dress. She was weeping all the more. And finally he said, okay, fine. So what do you want me to do? Do you want to buy a new dress? And what do you think that would cost? A new dress would cost how much? Something which can be worn at other occasions too, and something which is simple. So that made her think for a while. She thought and she said, well, I'm not so sure. Maybe 400 francs. So he said, okay. But he was taken aback because that was exactly the amount he had saved up to buy a gun. Now, he had this hobby of hunting, and he thought he would go hunting with his friends with this new gun. So he had saved up that money. But however, he thought he wanted to make his wife happy. So he said, fine, I will get you that dress. And he did. They ordered for the dress and they waited for it to arrive. Meanwhile, as the day of the ball grew closer, Matilda was still not looking happy. And her husband wondered why. He asked her, what is the issue, dear? What is the problem? Your dress is going to arrive. It's a very pretty dress. Now, what is the problem? She said, I'm just sad that I don't have even one stone, not one jewelry that I can wear with this dress. What will I do? It's fine. I don't want to go to this party. You can give the invitation to somebody else. Her husband was so furious. He said, how stupid you are. Why don't you just, buy a couple of roses or something? And it also looks chic. It looks trendy. You get 2 or 3 roses for 10 francs or so. She said, no, I cannot do that. I don't want to look poor in between some rich women. I don't want to, ridicule myself. So he said, finally, fine. So why don't you do something? You have this very close friend of yours, remember? Madame Forestier, your friend at the convent. She's a very rich woman. Why don't you go ask her to lend some of her jewelry? So that is when Matilda just was shocked, and she said, oh, I did not think of that. That is a brilliant idea. I'm going to do just that. And she went to her friend, Madame Forestier, and told her the whole thing. She said about the party, and she asked her for her jewelry. Now, Madame Forestier was a very kind lady, and she took out all her jewelry and showed it to Matilda. She saw plenty of sets of pearl and precious stones, but finally her eyes fell on something magnificent. It was a diamond necklace made of the most beautiful of diamonds, and it was sparkling. So she kept it around her neck and looked at herself in the mirror, and she knew this was what she wanted. And she asked her friend, and she happily agreed for her to take it. So she took the piece of jewelry after hugging her friend with a lot of happiness, and then went back home. The day of the party arrived, and the husband and wife went to the party, and as Matilda expected, it was her day. She enjoyed herself. She got all the attention that she wanted. All the men wanted to talk to her, waltz with her, and even the minister took notice of her and praised her about her beauty and grace. This was what Matilda had dreamt for all her life. And that day was the happiest day of her life. She just didn't want it to end, but it had to, right? So the day ended, and they both, after a lot of difficulty in finding a cab, they finally found a carriage and they reached home. Her husband had made her wear an overcoat because it was really cold outside. She took off the overcoat to take one last look at herself in the mirror. And that is when she noticed something. The necklace was gone. It was not there around her neck anymore. She turned frantically towards her husband and said, "My necklace, the one I borrowed from Madame Forestier, it's gone. What do we do now?" Her husband was like, "Wait a minute, don't panic, let us look around." But they searched everywhere they could. Monsieur Loisel even went back on foot the entire route that they had covered, even, the carriage, he checked everywhere, but they were unable to find it. So he came back disappointed. And now they both sat down to think, what would we do next? So he said, do one thing, write a note to your friend saying that the clasp of the necklace has broken, so we will need a few days to return it. And they set out looking for a replica of that necklace, which looked exactly the same as how it was, so that they could return it to Madame Forestier before she found out. And finally, they did. They kept on searching for so many days. Finally, they did find something which was the exact replica. It looked just like that. So they bought it, and it almost costed them 4,000 francs. This was like a fortune for them. His father had left him some money, so he used that plus the remaining amount he had to borrow, thousands and 500s, and small money from different friends of his. And the debt was so huge that both the husband and the wife had to work themselves so hard. They had to, completely stop all their luxuries. They had to send out the maid they had. They moved to a very, very humble apartment, and they cut down on all the expenses possible. Madame Loisel, Matilda, worked very, very hard. She started doing all the work by herself, and she was determined that she is going to, return the money to whomever she had borrowed it from. But she was satisfied that at least she could return it to her friend on time. So after this went on for 10 long years, they both were literally worn out, and they looked older, and all the hard work, showed on their faces. They had wrinkles appearing on their foreheads, and they were totally worn out, the husband and wife. But after 10 years, they were able to pay out all the debts that they had taken, and relieved, Matilda went out for a walk down the street. As she was walking down the street of Champs-Élysées, she found her old friend. Yes, Madame Forestier. She was coming from the other side with her child. She saw Matilda but wouldn't recognize her. So Matilda went to her. As soon as she saw her, she decided that she's going to tell her the story, because she had, settled all the debts. Now she could tell her. So when she saw her, she did not recognize her, and she just walked past, and she called out, "Jean." So she just turned and looked, and who was calling her first name? And, a person who with such worn out, such poverty-stricken looks, a person like that, who would call her? That is when she said, "I'm Matilda. Matilda Loisel." Madame Forestier was shocked. She said, "Oh, my dear Matilda, what happened to you? You look so different. You look so worn out. What happened to you? What? Haven't met you for years." She said, "Yes. Don't I? Don't I look terrible? All this thanks to you. It's because of you that this has happened." So she said, "Why? What did I do?" She said, "You remember the necklace that you had lent me when, I had to go to that party?" "Oh, yes, of course I do." So she said, "I had lost it. I had lost it after the party. We had to buy another brand new diamond necklace to return to you. So that has cost us these 10 years. The expression on Madame Forestier's face changed. With a proud and a naughty smile, she answered, "Oh, my dear Matilda, you shouldn't have bothered. The necklace that gave you, the necklace that I lent you, that day was a fake one. It would have hardly costed some 500 francs. It was not original. And you bought an original diamond necklace to replace that? Why, Matilda, you shouldn't have bothered." And you can imagine what Matilda would have felt. So there the story ends.
What a waste of time, yes.
Yes.
One little confession that she had lost it would have saved her 10 years.
Exactly. Yes. And her ego, probably her, she was so proud. She was such a proud lady. She wouldn't even do that. Yes. So this was
It
one
worked on
story.
her vanity, isn't it?
Right,
Very
right.
nice, beautiful story.
Right. Yeah. Cute little story, but something to look forward. Usually these short stories are really fun to hear and to read.
Yes.
Yes.
The twist at the end.
Twist at the end, yes. Even O. Henry stories have a similar kind of, yes.
O. Henry was famous for stories. I mean, you wouldn't know which way the story was going to end.
Yeah, the twist.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
We should maybe in one of our future story sessions we should have a couple of O. Henry stories as well.
I have
he's written
told
some
one
brilliant
in the
stories.
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, one you have at the beginning.
One I
yeah.
have
Lots of
narrated. Yes. So we should take up these authors from all over the world. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that. Bring you more and more stories of, the classics, which I'm sure we as children would have heard it more. I'm not really sure if this generation gets to, learn so much of good literature, which is really missing these days. Some of us would have even studied in college but forgotten it. People who don't have interest in literature wouldn't remember, but it would be nice for them to hear it now. Okay, I have studied it somewhere, or I've heard this.
It's ironical, isn't it, Deepti? It's so ironical that now everything is available so easily.
Right.
You don't really have to go hunting for books in libraries or buying them. But maybe people don't know, at least the younger ones don't know.
True.
So this is one good way of introducing them to different stories.
That is exactly why we always make sure that we tell the name of the author. We give credits to the author and, the source and everything. So by, at least this way we can promote more and more good quality, good literature, good stories.
A taste for good literature. And as we always say, if you enjoy our stories, do share them, do like them, and do give us suggestions, the kind of stories that you'd like to hear, or if there is one particular story that you would like us to narrate, go ahead and let us know. Right, Deepti?
Yes. So it was a pleasure doing it again after a long gap. We will do this more frequently now, and looking forward to many, many more sessions to follow. Right, Shrija?
Yes, absolutely. So stay safe and enjoy these stories.
Yes.
We'll be
stay
back
healthy,
with
stay
more.
at home, everyone. Be careful.
Yes.
It's not, the times are not very good for us to, take it lightly. So
but as they say, this too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
I think these lines are said again and again, but it holds so much of truth in the current scenario, right?
True. So,
yes. So
bye from Sugar and Spice. Till we meet again. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.